there's a law that doesn't allow, it's a felony under Florida law to knowingly provide material support to a designated foreign terrorist organization. Hamas is a designated foreign terrorist organization. And so the question is, are they knowingly providing material support? I don't know what material qualifies as, but them coming out and specifically saying, we are part of the Hamas movement, not just in solidarity with it. We must act as part of the movement. And going on to talk about how they will sit in, they will disrupt, and it's all highly encouraged, could get DeSantis, in my view, closer to within the bounds of what's acceptable. That doesn't necessarily make it a good idea. That's where you guys come in. Well, as the Floridian, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a tough call. You just had actually one of the former Florida Supreme Court justices, who was actually the first Jewish woman to serve on the Florida Supreme Court, come out and also say that she was against this. I mean, you're looking back in history throughout America, looking at Berkeley and, people burning their draft cards and the armbands that were protesting against war. And, a lot of people didn't like these kind of things, but you had the right to say it. Now, look, we're talking about some of these students might say, hey, look, I'm pro-Hamas, I'm with Hamas now and doing this. But in my opinion, if you are still not expressing a direct threat of violence to somebody else, even if you have these ridiculous views, horrible views, I don't think that your speech should be censored. I think that if you have some organization on campus that's being funded by tax dollars that is then funneling money to a terrorist organization like Hamas, yeah, that should be disbanded. But to have any sort of, I would say, repercussions or expulsion or something like that of a student who is just a part of a group, I don't think that that is correct under the First Amendment. And to be honest, it seems like a little bit of an overreach on my part. I think we've overcorrected.
And just to be clear, though, they're not being expelled, but their groups are being disbanded. Evita, what do you think?
Right.
Yeah, it's really tough for me. I think that the student groups are abhorrent. All of the reaction from these student groups has been ridiculous, ahistorical, and completely insensitive. I mean, they were coming out with pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas protests a day after the terrorist attack. But I hesitate to clamp down on these schools. I think what really we should be going after is the institution itself, right? Where are the students learning to act like this, right? Who is the one funneling the tax dollars from the school into the hands of these pro-Hamas student groups? It's the institution itself. And so I think really what we should be saying is let's defund all these schools, all of the schools that are getting these tax breaks on their multi-million-dollar endowments, funds for research, and we don't know where it's going. That's really going to make a real difference, because kids, if you tell them don't do something, they're going to do it anyways, right? If you say you can't have a student group part of the university, they're going to make one on their own outside of the university. I did this with this conservative paper that I started at Chicago, right? I knew that I wasn't going to get approved by the school. And so I started a paper with University of Chicago students, just not affiliated with the university. That's what's going to happen here. And it's not going to get to the root of the problem.
I know. My instincts are let them speak, let them get out there, and let's see who's in the groups. I love what the employers are doing with hard no, I'm coming into Apollo Global Management or Winston & Strawn Law Firm. Like, you can say whatever the hell you want, and I, as an employer, can do whatever the hell I want, because I cannot hire you because you have red hair. That's the law. The only thing I can't, that I can not use as a bar to your employment with me are things like race, age, gender, sexual orientation. But your position on supporting terrorists, fair game, effers, and you're not coming into my company. So go on out there, raise your hand, tell us what you stand for. I'd much rather learn about it now as opposed to when you're sitting in my cubicles next to all my Jewish employees who have to learn about your hate for them while you're sharing a lunch terminal. That's my view on it. But the hate is, I don't want to say it's ubiquitous, but it feels ubiquitous. Did you guys see what happened at GW, George Washington University? This is Jonathan Turley's college. Last night, it's been very controversial as people pull down the pictures of the hostages. Well, these students who are pro-Palestine or Hamas decided to do something different. Instead of pulling down the pictures of the hostages, they decided to get a projector and start projecting anti-Semitic messages on the side of a school building. Here, we can show it to you. Glory to our martyrs. Hello. Glory to our martyrs. What, like, It's pretty on the nose now. Divestment from Zionist genocide now. And there's another one too. Yeah, free Palestine from the river to the sea, which of course is a call to eradicate Israel. The cops came over to tell them to get the hell off of the property and stop using somebody's building as their private billboard. And they refused to go. Finally, they did, but they confronted the police. They were obstinate. I mean, Will, like this, oh, I'll give you one more actually before I get way in. MIT, one of the country's most respected, I mean, honestly, you could make the argument the most respected and most difficult to get into institution of higher education in America. And not only were they chanting nonsense like this, listen to what they were saying on their campus. Listen to the actual call they're making.
I think the part that sickens me the most is that this brought about more people than the one that we did last week. It's like
One solution. You know what that means? I mean, it's the same thing as gas the Jews.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to weigh in as a First Amendment lawyer on this kind of thing and say, you know, I can tell whether or not each thing is a verbal actual threat or not. I would say that from
It's
what
not.
it sounds like with that,
It's not. It doesn't cross a legal line.
Right. So if it doesn't cross the legal line, I mean, it comes to a place where still, I think that you said it very well before when you're saying it's a free market of ideas. And if someone is going to be brave enough or quote unquote stupid enough to come out and say that this is what they really believe in and think that this is okay, an employer should be able to ban them or block them from getting any sort of career in a position of what they would actually like to do. I think that's definitely the case. But when it comes again to the free speech, here in Florida, there was a new law that got passed with Ron DeSantis and Rep. Randy Fine that got signed while they were in Israel. And it was called, they say, the strongest anti-Semitism bill in the history of the country. Now, I disagree with this bill. It essentially makes it so that if you vandalize something, it's like a public nuisances law. But if you vandalize something and it has some sort of hateful message with it, you could get a third-degree felony for it, for having a First Amendment. And to me, these kinds of things, I think that we are overcorrecting if we are coming after these people based on grounds of that you are not allowed to say what you believe. Because if we don't have people who are discussing the ideas and saying, you know, being able to say one solution or something like this, how are people going to know that there is evil in this country and that we can battle against it? I think that these ideas have to be able to be said so that we can battle against them and find the best outcomes for our students.